Hello listeners, it's Cory Ballad. I'm excited today. I'm trying out something new. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite shows, Unsung. Now, Unsung is a show that I love because it talks about all of the groundbreaking and legendary R&B acts that America mostly does not celebrate. They didn't have mainstream or pop success. They didn't cross over. But their music is very legendary in R&B still. It's been on the air for a few years, but it comes on TV One, which I know some cable providers don't offer. It's usually not a basic cable channel, so some people are still not familiar with the show. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite episodes, Debarge. Now, this episode is like one of the very first episodes of the show. So, it's been out for a few years. It's a few years old, but still, like I said, many people are not familiar with the show. And even with the episode, I think it's still important to keep these artists' legacy going. Now, the Debarge story is both inspiring yet tragic. If you are not familiar with Debarge, they are a family that formed a singing group, and they recorded several albums in the 80s. There are 8 of them who were in the group at one point in time. During the episode, I learned that there were actually 10 siblings in total. The other 2, they didn't really talk about them, mention their names or anything, so I don't know anything about them. I'm going to do this based solely on the show, not looking up outside sources. I believe Bunny was the oldest from what they were saying. Then Bobby, Tommy, Randy, Mark, and L. I don't know which one is older, or they didn't really specify that. James, and then Chico was the youngest one. They were super talented. They all played instruments, and they all sang. But they endured a lot of pain growing up. They were biracial and got picked on and discriminated against at school and in the community where they lived at. They grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Then later Grand Rapids, Michigan. But Michigan, the Midwest. And then their father was abusive to them and their mother. As far as their music career, Bobby, the oldest boy, he started them off when he joined this band that worked with Barry White. They later became the band Switch, and Tommy Debarge also joined. After Switch started achieving some success, Bunny, Randy, Mark, and L formed what we know as Debarge. They moved to LA and ended up signing to Motown, where Switch was also signed. Then Debarge became successful too. One of their other brothers, James, joined. Then Bobby and Tommy left Switch and ended up working behind the scenes a lot with Debarge. It all started to fall apart when all of them began to abuse drugs. They said that L was the only one who wasn't using drugs at that time. Now everyone else became extremely unreliable, so the label started pushing L Debarge to the front. The siblings that were interviewed, which were only Bunny, Randy, and James Debarge. Yeah, them. They stated this came to a head on their very last album before they got dropped from Motown. They did little writing for the album, which they were usually heavily involved, and they were not aware of recording times. James stated he only sang on one song. Then Bunny stated they would only come in after everything was done and record over a finished demo, the background singers that already sang, and they just sing over it, and that was it. So after that, they were dropped. L was signed for a solo deal. Bunny got a solo deal. And then Chico, who was the youngest one, he was never in the group at that time. He got his own solo deal too. Eventually, after they had released their album, Bunny and Chico, they got dropped from Motown. Then L switched labels. Then he released a couple more albums. It was really crazy. They couldn't maintain maintain their success because of their struggles with drugs. Eventually, Elle started drug use too, they said. So they were all on drugs. Bobby, who was the oldest one who started them off when he got with the group Switch, he died. And many of them, they went back and forth to jail for drug-related charges and things. It was basically a downward spiral after that. So, this is a few years back, this episode, but have seen some things in recent years. Bunny was on the show with her daughter, I saw. She was talking about her addiction. And Christina Debarge, I think is how you say her name, who is James Debarge's daughter, is on the reality show Growing Up Hip Hop with Angela Simmons and Romeo and Pepper's daughter. So I seen him on there, and Christine was talking about him using drugs. He was in jail, and she was looking for him. And she would talk to Elle Debarge on there a couple of episodes. She was looking for her father. They were still struggling. So the Debarge story is a story of triumph and suffering. Unsung is one of my favorite shows on television, and I'm planning on summarizing more episodes. Now that I have this little shortened version of It'll Make Sense, please subscribe to my channel. It's Cory Ballad on YouTube, and that way you'll be notified when I upload new stuff. Like and subscribe, and I'll be back. And everybody else will be back too. So later, people.